Welcome to the Health Made Easy podcast. Health advice so easy, you'll feel more confident about your body, health, and life. And now, your host, Dr. Connie Jean.
Hi there, it's our second episode, and if you followed me on my blog or Facebook, many of you know my thoughts on conventional medicine and its role in helping me live my life with lupus. So a little bit of full disclosure here. I used to think that I had all the answers, but I realized that the more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know. So all knowledge in theory is easy to understand, but it's hard in practice. Similarly, it's hard to have an intimate understanding of the disease if you don't wake up with it every day. This is where the doctor-patient relationship is limited. And they don't know what it's like to live in our shoes as patients. And they know in theory how it should manifest and be treated. But pretty soon, as the rubber meets the road for us, you'll quickly realize that you're on the road by yourself. So we as patients wake up with the reality of our disease every day. And our disease is like peeling an onion. It has many layers, and those layers are different for every one of us. So rather than thinking of lupus or autoimmune conditions as a disease to be treated, we should ask who has the disease and how it's playing out for them specifically. Because lupus affects everyone differently. Then work to globally address all aspects of your life to remove barriers to your success before adding medications as the first line of defense. As a physical therapist, a registered dietitian, and a functional medicine practitioner, and most importantly as a lupus patient, I've learned that health is not just about eating or exercising, or even taking supplements. It's not about following a stringent dogmatic method of healing, because lupus or any other disease is often not so black and white. I believe I'm in a unique position to offer you something more important than knowledge. I can offer you perspective and experience in the right context in actually living with the disease, as well as applying the knowledge that I've gained to know what works and what really doesn't. And before I talk about the foundational pillars of my method in creating health, which I term the alkaline method, it's important to understand that humans, you and I, are creatures of habit. And when embarking on making changes in your life, you'll inevitably experience roadblocks and resistance. And this can manifest in different ways. You may find yourself subconsciously sabotaging your very efforts by engaging in autonomic negative thoughts, as termed by Dr. Amen, the author of Change Your Brain, Change Your Life. When I got this concept right, oh boy, it took some time, but I was really able to wrap my head around the fact that I constantly have negative thoughts. So our brain is designed to keep us safe. And our primitive brain, the amygdala, is responsible for basic fear response. This is the part of the brain that is governed by fear. And this is great feature to keep us out of harm's way. But the problem is that our brain sometimes registers change as a threat, even if its current state is not beneficial to us. Our brain likes to keep us status quo, which means it resists change because of the unknown future, whatever it is. It likes familiarity, even if it's a horrible situation. For example, if you've been in a terrible state of anxiety and depression, and the moment you try and you resolve the situation to feel more calm and more serene, well, you have this baseline state where you're more comfortable being anxious and depressed. So you almost have to unlearn that state of being in order for you to carry on with this more serene and happy state. It's a concept, trust me. We'll go deeper into it as you get to know me in later episodes. So, as a result, when we embark on a journey to change, even if it's a positive change, we tend to resist it. So, it's important to be aware of this phenomena to recognize and quench it when it comes up. I'll discuss how to do that later in the episode. But you'll also run into resistance from the ones closest to you, whether it's your partner, husband, friend, mom, dad, or coworker. When you set out to change, they'll subconsciously sabotage your efforts to keep you right where you are. Again, we can blame our primitive brain for this to keep us from harm's way without logical reasoning, and that's simply to keep us exactly where we are, even if the position is not serving us. Remember what I said, because our brain likes familiarity. For example, if you decide to eat healthy and commit to healing, you have dinner plans or lunch plans with your friends and family, and you order a healthy steamed meal in lieu of a fried meal that everyone else is enjoying, and all of a sudden your spouse or your friend tempts you by offering a bite or lure you into dessert, even though they know what your health goals are. Now, I'm not saying all friends or family does this, but most of them, if they too are resisting change and they're struggling, they won't like it if you sort of expose them in their unhealthy habits. You get what I'm saying? Well, this is because your behavior is the direct reflection of what they're not doing, and they'll resist it by trying to sabotage your efforts. And this happens in all aspects of your life, and sadly, since we're all governed by our amygdala, the primitive brain, we forgo the opportunities to change by succumbing to your situation rather than taking the leap forward. So remember, knowledge doesn't change behavior. It's applied knowledge that enables change and catapults you into transformation. As I mentioned, I live with lupus and I have a healthy respect for my condition. So while I do take medications at times, I make it a full-time job to do the right things most of the time. From meditation to stress management, eating the right foods 80% of the time, to exercising just enough to maintain my flexibility, strength, and stability, it's a process. It really is. And you do this every day. So let's just put it out there. There's so much great information out there to a point where it's become paralyzing for most of us. It's called the analysis paralysis. I've seen the internet space grow over the years and seen the explosion of people taking advantage of the bully pulpit in the health and the wellness space. I was so amused at first that many were not experts, but real people sharing their sixth sense about healthy eating, exercising, and a whole lot of everything else in between. It was hard for me first not to get distracted. And while I was intrigued at everyone's viewpoints, I found that too much was too much. And in my office, patients would often ask me about something they read on the internet, and I would end up taking the precious visit time to explain the relevance or the lack thereof. From food as medicine, which is really awesome, to placebo or paleo immune connections, to supplements, for just about everything my patients were asking me of what somebody said on the internet. I mean, everyone feels like they can give advice or health advice on the net. And I see the benefit and I see the potential danger in this. First of all, when a person is diseased or at the threshold of disease, they really should get medical advice and start there. And for those that have symptoms with no disease, you can certainly take the food as medicine approach and clean up your eating and reverse those symptoms. I think that's great, but it doesn't stop there. Most people sharing anecdotal evidence and extrapolating their successes to warrant them to give medical advice. Now it becomes a little bit of a slippery slope, in my opinion. I definitely believe we have a huge health crisis in the world, particularly in developed countries like ours. And really, the autoimmune symptoms and disease, it's exploding. And the real problem is the medical system. It's a flawed system. Our medical system, it tends to take a microscopic view of your disease and zooming in on masking the symptoms of the disease by supplying you with a pill for just about every ill. And if some organ's not working right, guess what they want to do? They want to take it out. So you have, many of you probably have removed ovaries, gallbladder surgeries, tonsils. It gets swollen, forget its purpose, we can remove it. So I think that at times these kind of situations kind of pose a real threat to our overall health. So after a while, you also realize that medications doesn't really address the root cause of your disease, and it begins to lose its effect on your body because you lose the tolerance and the sensitivity to it. And the more you take your medications, the real balance, the core balance your body really tries hard to obtain or regain is really further malaligned, or it gets further imbalanced because of these such medications, not to mention the side effects. So I've been there. I struggled with so many unrelenting symptoms that made me believe that I was dying of something. And the scariest part was that unknown future of my disease progression. And doctors kept throwing pills at me. Every time I went to a different specialist, I received a prescription for a drug. Many drugs at later with no answers. It was a really scary time for me. I read so much about all the possibilities of my disease, from cancer to infectious disease to some mysterious autoimmune symptoms. All I wanted to know was how I can better plan my future or lack of a future. So after years of studying, experimenting, and treating patients, I've got a secret for you. Healing is really an inside job. I created a method I call the alkaline method, which is based on the premise that our bodies are miraculous and it has the inherent ability to heal, so as long as the 3 core elements are in the state of balance. The 3 core elements of our health that I refer to are: 1 is brain health, 2 gut health, and 3 physical health. I know that without a doubt that if you can get the above 3 core elements in balance, then your body will begin to heal. The most important takeaway is for you to know that your body has the innate ability to heal itself. Key is to harness your body's ability to be its own pharmacy to support, balance, and recalibrate. So rather than looking externally to your physicians, medications, or even specific diet protocol, so many like keto, paleo, or vegan, I want to challenge you to take a step back and just start with you. So I want to talk to you about the difference between knowledge-based in theory versus applied knowledge. I want to make the distinction that knowledge has the potential to make a difference only if it's put into practice. We all know generally what to do. The problem isn't knowing what to do. It's often more about getting ourselves to do the very thing we need to be doing, like eating healthy, exercise, setting boundaries with your stressors like people, work, etc. Key is not to rely on motivation, rather making small micro choices that are better for your overall goals. You know what they are, because lupus, autoimmune conditions, or even other chronic conditions will suck the motivation out of you. Your body has an amazing way to balance the pH, your temperature, enzymes, hormones, energy, and your microbes in your gut. But too much toxins over time cause a compromise in our bodies to shift too far left or too far right. What does that mean? Well, it's when the central air system, for example, in your home is broken. You set the thermostat at a comfortable temperature of, say, 70 degrees, and the thermostat keeps connecting or correcting the temp to be at 80. And unless you fix the core issue with the system, the thermostat keeps reading 80 as it's 70. So the most important element, in my opinion, is our brain health, because that's the control center for everything in our body. It's scientifically proven that we're overstimulated. Our supercomputer, also known as brain never shuts off. And as it perpetuates our tendency to amplify drama and stress unnecessarily. So we now know and understand the health benefits of meditation, of shutting off our thinking to allow for our system to reboot. But again, most of us know, but we don't practice. So it's no wonder we're not productive. We're connected to our secret devices or smart devices or the computer, but we're not productive. We're distracted. We're addicted to our electronic devices for constant distraction, from social media posts to easy access videos to checking your email every minute, or even like binge watching all your TV shows. They make it so super easy for you. You know what I mean. I'm guilty as charged. This is very addictive. Very smart people are trying to buy your attention every day, and it's hard to stop giving them the attention unless you recognize the pattern and do something about it. What we have to remember is that our nervous system is on overdrive, and when it's on overdrive, our system tends to break down and start making mistakes. We make poor choices. You need to deliberately shut off and gain perspective and ground yourself to the here and now. The pendulum of engagement has gone too far, and we're all paying for it with our failing health. It's like a computer system. I'm sure you've experienced it. You run many apps on your phone or computer trying to multitask, and the computer freezes or slows down. That's our brain. What needs to happen? We need to switch to an off switch and unplug on a regular basis. This is also known as meditation. So I've said enough about the brain health and the problem, so we'll go on to talking about gut health. I'm sure you've heard of the term leaky gut. We are overloaded. With our overloaded brain, our system starts to malfunction as our gut is our second brain. Not only are we overloading, we're eating lots of crap and it's overtaxing our gut, leading to a compromise on the very structure called the microvilli, our gut lining. To add to this, we take medications, which further adds to the degradation of our gut lining. So it becomes flat and leaky. It starts to disintegrate, and the border is no longer a tight junction, keeping the bad guys out of our body. And because our border is porous, it starts to let in more of the bad guys. So poor diet equals increase in bad guys, and we end up with a host of following symptoms like IBS, indigestion, gas and bloating, pain in our bodies, severe fatigue, insulin resistance, allergies, rash, headaches, and weight gain. This is just a few of the common symptoms. Most of you ignore the symptoms for years, and until finally, when you go to the doctor, they'll have a pill for every symptom, which creates further imbalance until your system gets broken. And then you're diagnosed with lupus or other things. So remember, with a porous gut lining, it's like having all the windows without any nets or screens on the windows in the house, and you complain of pests in the house, like pests like bugs and rats, and it's starting to eat all your healthy foods in the house, and you're left with moldy and very dirty and very bacterial, ridden house. And that's what our gut lining serves to be. So, this alkaline method is all about building that gut barrier. So we're going to go on to the third element, which is physical health. Since the Industrial Revolution, we're not only eating junk, but we're not moving. And we're in pain. We're sort of paralyzed with this plugged-in smart devices. And so we don't move. We observe and we consume the information. We're sitting constantly, stimulated by the computers, and it's causing spinal degeneration so bad that increasingly I'm getting younger kids in my office with neck and back pain from poor posture. This is really sad. This creates poor posture, lack of muscles, decrease in oxygenation of your muscles, ultimately slows the metabolic detox exchange in your body, and basically your engine slows down significantly enough to affect its performance. You're just simply not getting the fuel you need to your brain. You gain weight, start to have pain, and become tired, and the process repeats itself. You see why the balance of the three elements are so important: the brain health, the gut health, and physical health. I can walk you down a rabbit hole and talk to you about different diets, specific substances and toxins that are slowly killing us. But my goal is to be practical. Take a big picture approach by helping you see the destination and show you how to get there without getting lost, which is ultimately health, because health is wealth. I can honestly tell you that many colleagues of mine are overextended and don't exemplify health. These are all healthcare providers, physicians, surgeons, and the likes. Yet they're the ones surgically operating on you and are giving you a pill to swallow. I remember a dear friend of mine telling me that a Prozac was a vitamin in med school. She wrote me a prescription because of my anxiety that I complained to her about and said, this is just what they do. Alter your brain chemistry just a little bit to feel really good. And she said she couldn't have done it without that vitamin P. But it alters our brain chemistry, and it further prevents our ability to heal in our bodies. So that kind of scenario had a tremendous impact on me. But I understood where we are because I've been there. So sick that I would listen to anything that can talk if I thought it can help me. When you're sick, you're not logical. You're really not. You lose the ability to think straight. We think on emotions because we're constantly in pain and so tired with foggy brains. But when we're talking about behavior change, such as changing the way we eat, it gets deep and personal. We have an emotional connection to our food and our habits. We're creatures of habit. And often we're on autopilot every day with our behavior. So strategy is to be sensible about balancing your life and behavior in such a way that makes sense for you. You may have some vices. I certainly do. My feelings of healthiness really comes from being able to enjoy wine, coffee with good company, and being able to hike and spend time with my family. For some of you, it may be a piece of cake, coffee, or enjoying your dinner out with your friends. And I've had some patients say it's gin and tonic. So be it. I've been humbled by my disease, and it's in my search for my answers that I've found that secret is in obtaining balance within. That's why simple habits over time can have greater impact than radically going after a dogmatic approach to self-healing. It's just not in the food either. It's about the way we move, think, and connect. It's really about finding what's true for you. I hope to be your health mentor who helps you to strike a balance in every facet of your life. It would be so amazing if you enjoyed this episode that you subscribe to my channel and you write a review, or find me on Facebook and subscribe to them. I've got YouTube channels, and I've got a blog, lupusrebel.com, drconniejian.com. You can find me on conniejian.com, and my office or my practice website, which is alkalinewellness.com. And you can also find the show notes to this episode on my conniejian.com/podcast. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, I would really appreciate it if you'd subscribe and share again this podcast with whoever that can benefit. And even more importantly, would really appreciate it again if you review and rate our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and wherever you choose to listen. We'll be back next week with more health made easy, practical tips to creating your health, and talk soon. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Health Made Easy podcast. www.drconniejean.com